The deep space was silent. It had been silent for 237 years. In that darkness, thousands of human warships floated like sleeping giants. Inside those ships, 50,000 soldiers slept in special cold chambers. They had been asleep since the year 2610. The galaxy had forced them to sleep. The Great War had ended badly for everyone except humans. Earth's military forces had been too strong, too brutal, and too efficient. When humans fought, they did not stop until their enemy was completely destroyed. Other alien races in the galaxy had never seen anything like it. They called humans Deathworlders because Earth was a dangerous planet that created dangerous creatures. The Galactic Council had been terrified. They made a deal with humanity. Humans would put their soldiers to sleep. The war machines would be turned off. In exchange, there would be peace across all the stars. Humanity agreed. They were tired of war too. The soldiers went into their cold sleep chambers, and the galaxy forgot about them. But the machines never truly slept. Deep in space, on a secret monitoring station called Alpha 7, computers watched and waited. They listened to every signal that crossed the dark between stars. The computers had one job: wake the fleet if danger came. On a cold morning in the year 2847, those computers heard something. It was a distress call. The signal was old and weak, traveling on frequencies that nobody used anymore. The computers analyzed it. The message was from the Valorians. The Valorians were a peaceful water-based species. They lived on beautiful ocean worlds. They made art and music. They never hurt anyone. Their diplomats had helped end the Great War. Everyone in the galaxy loved the Valorians. The distress call said terrible things. An enemy had come to Valorian space. They called themselves the Zathor Swarm. The swarm was destroying everything. 14 colony worlds had already fallen. Billions of Valorians were dead. The message begged for help. Any help. From anyone. The computers on Alpha 7 searched their memory banks. The Zathor Swarm. They found old files. Very old files. The Zathor were a nightmare species. They were like a virus that lived in space. They would attack a planet and take over the bodies of the people living there. Those people would become part of the swarm. More Zathor meant more attacks. The cycle never ended. The galaxy thought the Zathor were extinct. They had been wiped out 400 years ago in a massive war. But somehow, they had survived. Now they were back, and they were hungry. The computers made a decision. This was an extinction-level threat. The fail-safe protocols activated. Across 47 military stations, lights began to turn on. Machines that had been cold for centuries started to warm up. The awakening had begun. Admiral Keiko Ashford was the first to wake. Her body felt like it was on fire. Coming out of cold sleep was never pleasant. Her muscles screamed. Her head pounded. She wanted to vomit, but she was a soldier. She had trained for this. She forced her eyes open. The medical machines beeped around her. Green lights flashed. A voice spoke from a speaker. It was calm and mechanical. Admiral Ashford, revival successful, current date, March 15th, 2847. You have been in stasis for 237 years. Emergency protocols have been activated. Threat level, extinction class. Ashford pulled herself out of the chamber. Her legs were weak. She grabbed the wall to steady herself. 237 years. Everyone she knew was dead. Her friends, her family. The world she remembered was gone. But there was no time to think about that now. She stumbled to the command center. The screens were already showing data. She read the reports. Her face grew dark. The Valorians were being slaughtered. Their peaceful defenses meant nothing against the swarm. They had no real weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back. Ashford pulled up the galaxy map. She saw how much had changed. New colonies, new trade routes, new alliances. The galaxy had moved on without humans. That was good. It meant the peace had worked. But it also meant something else. The other species had become soft. They had forgotten how to fight. She checked the military records of other species. Her fears were confirmed. The Klati had reduced their fleet by 70%. The Draknor had converted their warships into cargo vessels. The Torvian defense grid was falling apart from lack of maintenance. In 200 years of peace, everyone had let their guard down. Everyone except the Zathor. Ashford's fingers moved across the controls. She activated the fleet-wide revival sequence. All across human space, more cold chambers began to open. Soldiers would wake up confused and in pain. But they would remember their training. They would remember what they were. She opened a communication channel to the Galactic Council. It took a moment to connect. The Council probably did not even remember that this channel existed. When the connection finally opened, she kept her message simple. This is Admiral Keiko Ashford of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received the distress call. We are responding. Stand clear. She closed the channel before anyone could reply. There was too much to do. She had to wake her people. She had to prepare the fleet. She had to get ready for war. Outside the station, the darkness began to change. One by one, the human warships powered up. Their engines glowed blue in the black void. Weapon systems came online, shields activated. The ships had been sleeping for more than 2 centuries. But they were built to last. They were built for war. Across the fleet, 50,000 humans woke from their long sleep. They did not know what year it was. They did not know that centuries had passed. But when they saw the threat reports, they understood. The galaxy needed them again. The Deathworlders were being called back to do what they did best. Hunt, Admiral Ashford stood at the command center window. She watched as ship after ship came to life. Thousands of war machines, thousands of trained killers, all waking up, all preparing for battle. The sight should have made her proud. Instead, she felt sad. They had hoped the galaxy would never need them again. They had hoped peace would last forever. But deep down, every soldier knew the truth. Peace never lasts. There is always another war, always another enemy, always another reason to fight. The Zathor had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked when humans were sleeping. They thought the Deathworlders were gone forever. They were wrong. And now they would learn what humans had tried to teach the galaxy 200 years ago. Never wake a sleeping predator. 3 days passed. 72 hours of chaos and confusion. All across human space, soldiers woke from their long sleep. They stumbled out of cold chambers, sick and disoriented. Medical teams rushed from person to person. Everyone had the same questions. What year is it? Where are we? Why did we wake up? The answers were hard to accept. 237 years had passed. Everyone they loved was gone. The world had changed completely. But there was no time for grief. The fleet needed them ready for battle. Engineers worked day and night. The ships were old but still powerful. Human military technology had always been built to last. The weapons worked. The engines worked. The shields worked. But the galaxy had advanced in other ways. There were new communication systems, new scanning technology, new types of fuel. The engineers did their best to upgrade what they could. They installed new computers. They updated the navigation systems. But the weapons stayed the same. Human weapons had always been more powerful than they needed to be. That overbuilding would save lives now. On the command ship Indomitable, Admiral Ashford called a fleet-wide meeting. 50,000 faces appeared on screens throughout the ship. Some were still pale from cold sleep. Others looked angry. Many looked scared. All of them looked lost. Ashford stood before them. She understood how they felt. She felt it too. The disconnection. The sense that they did not belong here. They were soldiers from another time. Ghosts brought back to fight one more war. I know you are confused, she began. Her voice was steady and strong. I know you are hurting. I know you want to go home. But our home is gone. The people we knew are dead. The world we remember exists only in our memories. She paused. The faces on the screen stared back at her. Some were crying. Others looked angry. A few just looked empty. But we still have a purpose. Ashford continued. The galaxy needs us. The Valorians are dying. Billions of innocent people are being slaughtered by an enemy that will not stop. An enemy that cannot be reasoned with. An enemy that must be destroyed. She brought up images on the screens. Burning cities. Destroyed planets. Bodies floating in space. The Zathor left nothing but death behind them. 200 years ago, the galaxy was afraid of us, Ashford said. They called us monsters. They said we were too brutal, too violent, too dangerous. They made us sleep so they could forget what we were. But now they remember, because now they need what we are. She stood taller. Her voice grew harder. We are Deathworlders. We come from a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We evolved to survive, to hunt, to fight, to win. The Zathor think they are apex predators. They are wrong. We are the apex predators, and we are going to remind them why Earth is the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. The speech worked. Across the fleet, soldiers stood straighter. Their eyes became focused. They remembered their training. They remembered what they were capable of. The confusion began to fade. In its place came something cold and hard. Purpose. Meanwhile, far away in the center of the galaxy, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The council chamber was massive. Representatives from 30 different species sat in circular rows. At the center, holographic displays showed the destruction in Valorian space. The atmosphere was tense. Some species wanted to send help. Others were too afraid. The Zathor seemed unstoppable. Every fleet sent against them had been destroyed. Every defensive line had fallen. The swarm just kept growing. Then Admiral Ashford's message arrived. Deathworlders responding. Stand clear. The chamber went silent. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the arguments began. The Clathy representative stood up. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. This is madness, he said. His voice trembled. We asked for help from anyone. We did not ask for them. We know what humans do. We remember the war. Other council members agreed. The memories were still there. Planets burned by nuclear fire, space stations torn apart, entire fleets destroyed in minutes. Humans did not know how to fight with restraint. They only knew total war, but the Valorian ambassador had had enough. She rose slowly. Her skin was pale blue, almost white. Her eyes were filled with tears. When she spoke, her voice cracked with emotion. My people are dying, she said. Right now, as we sit here and debate, billions are dead. Billions more will die. My children are dead. My home is gone. Everything I love has been destroyed. And you sit here afraid of the ones who want to help us? She looked around the chamber. Her gaze was fierce. Yes, humans are brutal. Yes, they are violent. Yes, they scare us. But they are also our only hope. The Zathor do not negotiate. They do not stop. They will not rest until we are all dead or part of their swarm. If you want to survive, you will let the humans do what they do best. The vote was called. 14 species voted yes. 7 voted no. The rest abstained. It was enough. The Galactic Council formally requested human intervention. They sent the request knowing what it meant. They were unleashing the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. Back on the Indomitable, key personnel began to emerge. Colonel Marcus Webb was one of them. He commanded the Special Operations Forces. He was a big man with scars on his face and hands. When he woke up, the first thing he did was ask about his wife. The medical officer had to tell him the truth. His wife had died 180 years ago. She had lived a full life. She had remarried, had children, grown old, died peacefully in her sleep. Webb took the news without expression. He asked for her picture. They gave him a file with photos from her whole life. He looked at them alone in his quarters, saw her growing old in pictures, saw her happy with another man, saw grandchildren he would never meet. He felt nothing, or maybe he felt everything but could not process it. So he put the pictures away and reported for duty. The fleet needed him. That was all that mattered now. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had a different reaction. She was the fleet's expert on alien biology. When she woke up, she immediately asked to see the Zathor data. She spent hours reading old files, studying their DNA, understanding how they reproduced. The more she learned, the more worried she became. The Zathor were smarter than before. They had evolved. The old countermeasures might not work anymore. She needed live samples to be sure. That meant getting close to the enemy. Lieutenant Chenja was young and confident. Maybe too confident. He was a pilot, one of the best. He flew experimental strike craft that could move in ways other ships could not. He was eager to prove himself, eager to show that humans had not gone soft in their long sleep. Dr. Tanaka called a briefing for the command staff. She stood before a large screen showing images of the Zathor. They were hideous creatures, like insects made of nightmares. All teeth and claws and hunger. The Zathor reproduce through parasitic implantation, she explained. They inject eggs into a host. The eggs hatch and consume the host from the inside. The host becomes part of the swarm. Their mind is taken over. Their body is transformed. They become a weapon for the Zathor to use. She brought up population estimates. The numbers were staggering. We estimate there are currently 700 billion Zathor organisms, and they are growing exponentially. Every person they take becomes 10 more Zathor. Every planet they consume feeds 1 trillion more. The Valorians never had a chance, Colonel Webb said quietly. They are pacifists. They do not have real weapons. To them, this is like a plague, an unstoppable disease. Admiral Ashford nodded. Then we will be the cure. She pulled up the fleet status. All ships are ready. We jump to Valorian space in 6 hours. When we get there, we implement Protocol Omega. The room went quiet. Protocol Omega, Total War, no rules of engagement, no mercy, no prisoners. Complete annihilation of the enemy. Understood, Webb said. The fleet prepared for departure. Thousands of ships aligned themselves. Crews ran final checks. Weapons were loaded. Shields were tested. Everything was ready. Admiral Ashford stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. Around her, officers worked at their stations. Outside the windows, the fleet waited. So many ships, so much firepower. All of it about to be unleashed, she gave the order. All ships jump, reality tore apart. The fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. They were going to war. The Deathworlders were coming, and the galaxy would remember why that name was earned. The Terran Defense Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valorian home system. Thousands of human warships appeared in space like angry ghosts. Their weapons were already charging. Their shields were already active. They had come to fight. Admiral Ashford looked at the tactical display. What she saw made her blood run cold. The Zathor swarm had 14 million combat organisms in the system. They surrounded the last 3 inhabited planets. Valorian defense satellites floated dead in space. The once beautiful blue worlds were covered in dark patches where the swarm had landed. Long-range scans complete, an officer reported. The swarm has noticed us. They are holding position. Across the galaxy, observers watched. The Galactic Council had sent monitoring ships. They expected the humans to make contact, to negotiate, to assess the situation. That was what civilized species did before battle. Humanity did not negotiate with parasites. All ships. Ashford's voice was ice cold. Hellfire Protocol. Execute. The fleet attacked immediately. No warning. No communication. Just pure violence. The capital ships opened fire first. They used weapons called nuclear-pumped lasers. The technology was old but devastating. A small nuclear bomb would explode inside a special chamber. The explosion energy would be converted into a focused laser beam. Each shot could cut a battleship in half. Thousands of these beams lanced through space. They struck Zathor bioships and vaporized them. The organic vessels burned like paper. The swarm tried to scatter. They tried to dodge. It did not matter. The human computers calculated every movement. Every shot found its target. Lieutenant Chen Zhao led his fighter wing into the chaos. His ship was a beautiful machine. It could turn on a coin. It could accelerate faster than most species could survive. Zhao had been born on Earth. His body had evolved under one full gravity. He could handle forces that would kill others. His wing dove through the swarm formations. They fired missiles and lasers. Every shot counted. Every shot killed. The Zathor tried to swarm them, tried to use their numbers to overwhelm the humans. But human pilots were faster. They executed maneuvers that seemed impossible, spinning, diving, turning in ways that broke the normal rules of space combat. "This is Wraith," Zhao called out. He used his call sign. "Got 3 on my tail." Coming around for another pass, he pulled his ship into a reverse burn. The G-forces crushed him into his seat. His vision tunneled, but his hand stayed steady. He flipped the ship end over end and fired. All 3 pursuing Zathor ships exploded. "Scratch 3, he said. There was joy in his voice. He was having fun, But the Zathor were adapting. They had survived for millions of years by learning quickly. They split their forces, started using new tactics. Some ships played dead, others used the wreckage as cover. They were trying to learn how humans fought. The problem was that humans adapted faster. Colonel Webb and his special operations teams were already moving. They used small stealth ships to get close to the largest Zathor bioships. These massive vessels were like floating cities. They grew new Zathor organisms inside them. Destroying them would slow the swarm's growth. Webb's team attached to the hull of a bioship. They cut through the organic armor with plasma torches. Inside the ship was like a nightmare. Pulsing walls, strange fluids dripping from the ceiling, and Zathor warriors waiting to defend their nest. The close-quarters battle was brutal. The Zathor were fast and deadly. They had claws that could tear through metal, teeth that could bite through body armor. But the human soldiers had trained for this. They moved as a unit, covering each other, never staying still. Webb led from the front. His rifle barked in short, controlled bursts. Each burst dropped a Zathor. His team pushed deeper into the ship. They reached the neural cluster, the brain of the bioship. "Plant the charges," Webb ordered. His demolitions expert moved forward. She placed antimatter charges around the neural cluster. Antimatter was the most destructive substance known to science. When it touched normal matter, both would completely annihilate. The explosion would be massive. Charges set. Timer running. "We have 60 seconds, they ran. Behind them, more Zathor poured into the corridor. The creatures screamed. It was a sound that bypassed the ears and went straight to the brain. A sound designed to cause fear. It had worked on every species they had encountered. It did not work on humans. Humans had been scared by worse things, by lions and bears and sharks, by their own imaginations. A sound meant nothing to creatures who had learned to master fear. Webb's team made it back to their ship with 5 seconds to spare. They detached and accelerated away. Behind them, the bioship exploded. The antimatter charges created a flash of pure white light. When it faded, there was nothing left but atoms. Across the system, other teams did the same thing. Boarding, planting charges, escaping. One by one, the massive bioships died. The Zathor swarm was beginning to realize something terrible. They were losing. For the first time in 300 years, the Zathor began to retreat. But Admiral Ashford was not satisfied with retreat. She wanted extinction. "Pursuit course," she ordered. "Do not let them regroup. I want every single organism destroyed." The human fleet chased the swarm through the system. They hunted them like wolves hunting deer. No mercy, no hesitation, just relentless pressure. The space around the Valorian worlds became a graveyard. Millions of Zathor bodies floated in the void. But the battle was not over. The surface of Valoria Prime still crawled with swarm organisms. Billions of them had already landed. They were in the cities, in the oceans, infecting the population. "Prepare ground forces," Ashford ordered. "We are going in." Human Marines loaded into dropships. They wore sealed power armor that let them fight in any environment. Water, vacuum, toxic atmosphere. It did not matter. The armor kept them alive and made them stronger. The dropships fell through the atmosphere like meteors. They landed in the flooded cities of Valoria Prime. The water was dark with blood and debris. Zathor organisms swam through the ruins. They had taken over Valorian bodies, turned them into weapons. The Marines hit the ground fighting. In the narrow corridors of the flooded buildings, they cleared room by room. It was slow work, brutal work. Every corner could hide an enemy. Every shadow could mean death. But the Marines were professionals. They moved with precision. They communicated constantly. They watched each other's backs. And slowly, block by block, they pushed the swarm back. The Valorian survivors watched in amazement. They had never seen violence like this. The humans were so efficient, so brutal, so unstoppable. They killed without hesitation, without emotion, just cold professional execution. The rescue operation lasted 36 hours. In that time, the Marines saved 3 billion Valorians. They pulled them from ruins, defended them from attacks, evacuated them to safe zones. The cost was high. Human casualties mounted, but they did not stop. They never stopped. When it was over, Admiral Ashford reviewed the numbers. 6,000 humans dead. 12% of the fleet had taken casualties. By galactic standards, it was a horrifying loss. By human military doctrine, It was acceptable, but the fight was not finished. The Zathor had retreated to their breeding grounds. Dr. Tanaka had analyzed their movements. She knew where they were going. The Burning Reach, she said, pointing to a nebula on the star map. It is a region of dense radiation and gravitational anomalies. No species has explored it in centuries. The Zathor have been breeding there the entire time. That is where they survived. Ashford studied the map. The Burning Reach was a death trap. Ships that went in rarely came out. The radiation would fry electronics. The gravity wells would tear hulls apart. It was the perfect hiding place. How many Zathor are in there? She asked. Dr. Tanaka's voice was quiet. 4 trillion. Maybe more. The bridge went silent. 4 trillion. It was an impossible number. How could they fight that many? But Ashford did not hesitate. We are going in. Prepare the fleet. Admiral, an officer protested. The Galactic Council is ordering us to stop. They say entering the Burning Reach is suicide. Ashford turned to face him. Her eyes were hard. Send them a message. Tell them we are not mad. We are thorough. If we do not kill every single Zathor, they will come back. And next time they might win. The Valorian ambassador sent a request. She wanted Valorian ships to join the assault. The humans had shown them what strength really meant. They wanted to help. They wanted to fight. Ashford approved the request. 200 Valorian support ships joined the human fleet. They were not warriors, but they were learning. Together, they prepared to enter hell itself. The Burning Reach looked like a wound in space. The nebula glowed red and orange. Radiation storms crackled through the gas clouds. Gravity wells formed and collapsed randomly. Ships that entered this place rarely came back out. The few that did return came back damaged and broken. The Terran defense fleet approached the edge of the nebula. Behind them, 200 Valorian support ships maintained formation. The Valorians were nervous. Their sensors showed massive energy readings from inside the cloud. The Zathor were in there, trillions of them. Admiral Ashford stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. She studied the tactical displays. Inside the Burning Reach, the Zathor had built organic space stations. Massive breeding platforms where they could create billions more organisms. The stations were connected by living corridors that stretched for thousands of miles. This is their fortress, Dr. Tanaka said. She stood beside Ashford. They have been here for centuries, building, growing, waiting. They thought they were safe here. They were wrong, Ashford replied. The fleet entered the nebula. Immediately, their systems began to fail. The radiation was intense. Ship computers glitched. Communications became difficult. Navigation systems struggled to find reference points. But human engineering was tough. The ships kept moving forward. The Zathor attacked immediately. They came from all directions. Millions of bioships swarmed out of the gas clouds. But this time, they were fighting on their home ground. They knew every current, every gravity well, every hiding spot. The battle became a hunt. Not the kind where humans chased the swarm. The other kind, where both sides hunted each other. Small human strike teams led by Colonel Webb moved through the nebula like ghosts. They infiltrated Zathor breeding stations. They planted biological weapons that Dr. Tanaka had created. The biological weapons were precise. Dr. Tanaka had studied the Zathor DNA. She found their weakness. A genetic sequence that all Zathor shared. She engineered a virus that would attack that sequence. The virus would spread through the swarm, killing them from the inside. Webb's team moved through a breeding station. The walls pulsed with life. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors. They could hear the Zathor all around them. Millions of organisms being born, growing, preparing for war. Release point reached, Webb reported. His voice was calm despite the danger. Deploying payload. They released the virus into the station's air system. The microscopic particles spread quickly. Within minutes, Zathor organisms began to die. Their bodies seized up. Their genetic code unraveled. The station started to collapse as its biological systems failed. Extraction. Now, Webb ordered. His team ran. The station was dying around them. Walls split open. Fluid sprayed everywhere. Zathor warriors tried to stop them. But the warriors were dying too. The virus was spreading faster than anyone expected. They reached their ship and launched. Behind them, the entire breeding station exploded. Not from bombs, from biological failure. The Zathor had built their fortress from living tissue. When that tissue died, everything collapsed. Across the Burning Reach, other teams did the same thing. Station after station fell. The virus spread through the swarm, but the Zathor were adapting. Some organisms were immune. They began to hunt the human teams with new intelligence. New tactics. Lieutenant Zhao's fighter wing was ambushed. They were flying through a gas cloud when Zathor ships appeared from all sides. His wings scattered. Tried to fight their way out. But there were too many enemies. Wraith is hit. Someone called over the radio. I have multiple contacts. Need backup! Zhao's ship took fire. His shields failed. His wing exploded around him. He watched his squadron mates die. People he had trained with, flown with, friends, all gone in seconds. He managed to escape. Barely. His ship was damaged. His cockiness was gone. War was not a game. It was not fun. It was death and pain and loss. He had learned that lesson the hard way. Colonel Webb's perspective on the mission had also changed. At first, he had thrown himself into the work because he had nothing else. His wife was gone. His old life was gone, but now he saw something different. The young soldiers around him, the frightened Valorians they were protecting. These people needed him. He could not bring back the past, but he could protect the future. That became his new purpose. Not revenge, not duty, just the simple need to keep others safe. Dr. Tanaka struggled with her own demons. She had created a weapon that killed trillions. Yes, they were monsters. Yes, they were parasites. But they were also living things. She wondered if she had become the monster, if her solution was as terrible as the problem. But then she saw images from the Valorian worlds. The survivors, the children who would have died. The civilization that would have been destroyed. Her weapon had saved billions of lives. Sometimes there were no good choices, only necessary ones. Admiral Ashford watched the battle unfold. The Zathor were dying, but slowly, too slowly. At this rate, some would escape. Some would survive. They would rebuild, come back. The cycle would continue. She needed something decisive, something that would end this forever. Admiral, an officer called out. Long-range sensors have detected something. A massive bioconstruct at the center of the nebula. Size estimate equivalent to a small moon. It appears to be charging for an FTL jump. Ashford's blood went cold. A superorganism, the Zathor's ultimate weapon. A living ship the size of a moon. If it escaped, it could reach the galactic core. Infect billions. Maybe trillions. Everything they had done would be worthless. How long until it jumps? She asked. 30 minutes. Maybe less. There was no time for a proper attack. No time to coordinate. Only one option. Ashford had known it might come to this. She had hoped it would not. But she was ready. Plot a ramming course, she ordered. All hands prepare for impact. We are taking it down. The bridge crew stared at her. Ramming. That meant certain death. The Indomitable would be destroyed. Everyone on board would die. But it would stop the superorganism. Admiral, her second-in-command said quietly. There might be another way. Before Ashford could respond, new contacts appeared on the sensors. The Valorian ships, all 200 of them. They were moving toward the superorganism. The Valorian ambassador's voice came over the comm. Admiral Ashford, we have learned much from you. How to fight, how to sacrifice, how to be strong. But we have something you do not. Our ships have superior shield technology. We can create a gravity trap, hold the superorganism in place. But only for a few minutes. You will be destroyed, Ashford said, we know. But you saved our people. Now we save yours. Get your teams inside that thing, kill it. We will hold it here. The Valorian ships formed a circle around the superorganism. Their shields connected, created a web of energy. The massive bioconstruct was trapped, but the strain was enormous. The Valorian ships began to fail one by one. Webb, Ashford called. You have 10 minutes? Maybe less. Get in there and kill that thing. Webb's team launched immediately. They flew straight into the superorganism's body, cut through its armor, entered its neural core. The inside was like being inside a brain. Everything pulsed. Everything was connected. They planted charges, more powerful than before, enough to destroy a planet. Webb looked at the timer. 5 minutes. They had 5 minutes to get out, but the way back was blocked. Zathor warriors poured in, thousands of them, protecting their precious superorganism. Go, Webb ordered his team. I will hold them. Colonel, you cannot. That is an order. Go, his team ran. Webb stayed behind. He fired his rifle until it overheated, threw grenades, fought with his knife when his ammunition ran out. He knew he would not make it, but his team would. That was enough. The charges detonated. The superorganism exploded from within. The blast was massive. 40 human ships were vaporized. 67 Valorian vessels. Thousands of lives gone in an instant. But the superorganism was dead, and with it the Zathor's central consciousness. The remaining swarm organisms went into death throes. Without the guiding intelligence, they became mindless. Easy to kill, Admiral Ashford watched the explosion on her screens. She knew Webb was gone, knew the Valorians had sacrificed everything. The victory felt hollow. All ships, she said tiredly. Continue cleanup operations. Kill every last Zathor. Leave none alive. The battle continued for another day. But it was just cleanup. The Zathor were broken. Finished. In the end, 18,000 humans were dead. 4,000 Valorians. The cost had been terrible, but 47 billion people were alive because of that sacrifice. The Terran Defense Fleet returned to Galactic Council space 3 weeks after the battle. The ships were damaged, scarred. Some were held together by emergency repairs. Inside those ships, soldiers tried to process what they had done. 23% casualties. The worst losses in human military history, but they had won. The burning reach was now a graveyard. The Zathor were extinct, finally. Truly extinct. Warning beacons surrounded the nebula now. They broadcast a simple message in every language. Here lies the Zathor swarm. They thought they were apex predators. They were wrong. 47 billion people were alive because of what the humans had done. The Valorian civilization was saved. Their colony worlds could be rebuilt. Their culture would continue. But the cost had been paid in blood. Human and Valorian blood. The Valorians were changed. Before the war, they had been peaceful, artistic. They believed violence was never the answer. Now they knew better. Sometimes peace must be defended with force. Sometimes survival requires sacrifice. The humans had taught them these hard lessons. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The massive chamber was packed. Every species sent representatives. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Would the humans be sent back to sleep? Would they be punished for their violence? Or would something else happen? Many species were afraid. They had watched the battle, seen what humans could do, the brutal efficiency, the total destruction. Some council members wanted to reinstate the Deathworlder protocol immediately, put the humans back in their cold sleep chambers before they became dangerous again. Others disagreed. The Valorians led this faction. They argued that humans had proven themselves. Yes, they were brutal, but they were also saviors. They had come when called, done what needed to be done, saved billions of lives. The debate raged for hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Then Admiral Ashford entered the chamber. She walked slowly to the center platform. She was tired. Her uniform was clean, but her face showed the weight of command, the weight of loss. She had sent 18,000 people to their deaths. That was not something you forgot. The clothy representative spoke first. He pointed at Ashford accusingly. You killed trillions of Zathor. Your violence knows no bounds. You must be contained. Ashford looked at him calmly. Yes, we killed trillions. Because they were parasites who would have consumed the entire galaxy. We did what you could not do. What you would not do. We saved you. You are monsters. Another representative shouted. Perhaps, Ashford agreed. But we are your monsters. 200 years ago you called us dangerous. You made us sleep so you could forget what survival really costs. You built a civilization on peace. That is beautiful. But you forgot how to defend it. She walked to the center of the chamber. Her voice grew stronger. When the Zathor came, where were your fleets? Where were your defenses? You had none. You had become soft, comfortable. You thought the universe was safe, but the universe is never safe. There are always predators in the dark, so you woke us up. You sent us a distress call. You begged for help, and we came. We bled for you. We died for you. 18,000 of my people are gone. 4,000 Valorians gave their lives fighting beside us. And now you want to cage us again? The chamber was silent. Ashford's words hit hard. She was right. They had called for help. The humans had answered. The humans had saved them. You do not get to have it both ways, Ashford said. Her voice was cold as ice. You cannot ask us to be your protectors and then lock us away. You cannot call us monsters and then expect us to save you. Make a choice. Either we are part of this galaxy or we are not. But you will not use us and then throw us away. The Valorian ambassador stood up. She walked to stand beside Ashford. The humans saved my people. They did terrible things, brutal things, but necessary things. I watched them fight. I watched them die. They are not monsters. They are survivors. And they taught us how to survive too. She turned to face the council. We vote to allow humanity full membership. No restrictions. No protocols. They have earned their place among us. The debate continued for 3 more days. It was heated, angry, full of fear and hope and uncertainty. Some species threatened to leave the council if humans were given membership. Others threatened to leave if they were not. Finally, a compromise was reached. The Terran Sentinel Accords. Humanity would maintain an active military presence. Their fleets would not be mothballed. Their soldiers would not return to cold sleep. But they would serve a specific purpose. They would be the galaxy's protectors of last resort. When extinction came calling, when diplomacy failed, when hope seemed lost, the humans would respond. They would be the shield that protected civilization, the sword that struck down threats too great for others to handle. In exchange, humanity would train other species in defensive warfare, teach them how to protect themselves, share military technology and tactics. The galaxy would not remain soft, would not be caught unprepared again, and humanity would gain full council membership, access to galactic resources, permission to establish new colonies, expand into unexplored space. They would no longer be isolated, no longer forgotten. Admiral Ashford accepted the terms. It was not perfect, but it was fair. Humanity would remain vigilant, ready, waiting for the next threat, because there would always be a next threat. The surviving soldiers began to adjust to their new reality. Some chose to remain on active duty. Others retired to help rebuild Valorian worlds. Everyone dealt with their losses in different ways. Lieutenant Zhao, who had lost his entire squadron, requested a transfer to Training Command. He would teach the next generation of pilots, make sure they understood that war was not a game, that every decision mattered. That cockiness could get you killed. Dr. Tanaka joined the Galactic Science Directorate. Her job was to identify potential threats before they became extinction events. She would study dangerous species, map unexplored regions, make sure the galaxy was never caught off guard again. Admiral Ashford was appointed as the first human counselor. She would represent Earth's interests, speak for humanity, guide policy. It was a political role. She hated politics. But someone had to do it. Someone had to make sure the sacrifice of 18,000 soldiers was not wasted. 6 months after the war ended, a memorial station was built. It floated at the edge of the burning reach, a beautiful structure of metal and crystal. Inside, the names of every fallen soldier were inscribed. Human and Valorian alike. Admiral Ashford attended the dedication ceremony. She stood before the memorial wall with the Valorian ambassador. They looked at the names together. So many names, so many lives. I have a question, the ambassador said quietly. What makes humans different? Why do you fight so fiercely, so brutally? Other species would have given up, would have fled. But you never stop. Why? Ashford thought about the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. What made humans special? What made them so dangerous? We come from a world that tried to kill us, she said finally. Every day for millions of years, Earth tested us. Predators hunted us, disease infected us. Weather tried to destroy us, starvation, drought, ice ages, volcanic eruptions. Our planet threw everything at us. She touched the memorial wall gently. We learned that survival is not about being the strongest, or the fastest, or the smartest. Survival is about never giving up, about fighting even when you know you might lose, about protecting the person next to you even if it cost your life. We also learned something else, Ashford continued. Something important. We learned that the pack survives together. One human alone is weak. But humans working together? Supporting each other? Sacrificing for each other? That is when we become unstoppable. The ambassador nodded slowly. I think I understand. You fight not just for yourselves, but for each other. Yes, Ashford said. Colonel Webb died to save his team. The Valorian ships sacrificed themselves to give us time. Your people learned what we have always known, that sometimes love looks like violence. That protecting what you care about requires being willing to fight, to bleed, to die. They stood in silence for a while. Then the ambassador spoke again.
What happens now?
Ashford looked out the window at the stars. Now we rebuild. We prepare, we train. We make sure the galaxy can defend itself. And if another threat comes, another enemy that cannot be stopped any other way, we will be ready. The Deathworlders will answer the call, the ambassador said. Always, Ashford replied. Across human space, new fleets were being built. Not for conquest, for protection. The shipyards hummed with activity. Young people enlisted in the military. They wanted to serve, to protect, to be part of something greater than themselves. Other species came to Earth to train, to learn human tactics, human philosophy, human history. They studied how a dangerous planet had created dangerous people. They learned that danger could be controlled, directed, used for good. The galaxy changed. The era of soft peace was over. In its place came something stronger. A civilization that could defend itself, that understood the cost of freedom. That new predator still lurked in the dark and was ready to face them. The Deathworlders were no longer sleeping. They walked among the stars openly. Some species still feared them. That was okay. Fear kept people careful, kept them from becoming complacent again.